Hey guys, what's up? It's Ripe again. In today's video, my insane homeowner association president rages at me for having a blue mailbox. He then vandalized my mailbox to force me to get a new one. He destroyed 4 of my mailboxes and I ended up suing him. Here is why you should never mess with a mailbox. Let's dive right into the story. If I could describe my HOA president in one word, it would be childish. If I had more words for it, I would probably be saying stuff that would be just a long bleep of bad words. My mailbox is at the end of my driveway, just like everyone else's. I am an artist, so the idea of a boring, plain mailbox is not something that would ever bring me joy. I knew that going too crazy with it would probably make the HOA unhappy, so I found kind of a middle ground for it. I then got a baby blue mailbox, as that is my favorite color and it seems much nicer than just a black one that the HOA president recommended I get. That first mailbox lasted a total of 4 days before I found it on the ground, ran over to the point that it was just scrap metal. Now, I had a strong feeling that the HOA president was the culprit, but I had no proof to back up those claims. I will say that the day before it got destroyed, he came to my house and had a very intense conversation with me that I will relay to you here. Since I don't want to type HOA president every time, I will shorten it for the rest of the story to HP. HP, I was driving by and couldn't help but notice that you got the wrong mailbox color. Me, no, I think that's the right one. The house number on it matches mine. HP, I am talking about it not being black. I told you before you got it that everybody else in this neighborhood has a black mailbox. Me, yes you did, so I decided it would be nice to add a little bit of color. HP, I don't think you are understanding me. Your mailbox is the wrong color and I expect you to fix it. If not, I'm gonna make sure that you end up in jail for going against the HOA rules you agreed to when you signed the lease for this house. Please keep in mind that the entire conversation I was playing dumb and I knew the entire time why he was angry about the mailbox. I just get some sick pleasure from being calm and acting clueless to watch the other person get angrier and have to spell out exactly the thing that will make them sound like an idiot. Of course, if the HOA had any rules regarding mailbox colors, I would follow them, but they didn't. This was a preference by this one man, and he decided to use fear to try and push it onto everybody else. I was not about to let that happen to me, and I could see that it resulted in one dead mailbox. Now for my next mailbox, I got a white one and spent time decorating it myself with flowers and a ton of colors. If he did not like the blue one, he was going to hate this one. I also decided to set up a camera to make sure it was actually him destroying it and not just some teenagers messing around. Lo and behold, a couple days later, the HOA president comes in his truck and knocks down my mailbox before running it over again and again until it is useless. Now, I could have right then confronted him, but I decided to have a little bit of fun first with this mailbox game we seem to be playing. My goal was to try and make the most outrageous mailboxes to just get him angrier every single time. About 4 mailboxes later, one that I ended up having a friend modify to be shaped like a fish for no particular reason, I just ran out of ideas. HP was fuming mad though, but obviously didn't want to admit that he was the one doing it. Instead, I kept getting little notes under my door about where I could buy a black mailbox and things like that. My fun was done though, and I was ready to finally get serious with him for destroying my property. As an artist, I can admit that I know next to nothing about laws or the legal system. I do know one thing though, from movies, and that is messing with mail is considered a federal offense. Turns out this extends to the mailbox itself, which is just extra lucky for me. I filed a lawsuit against HP for destruction of property and messing with my mail. He did not know that I had the video, so he was just planning on saying that he didn't do it and the HOA was gonna try and look into this problem. His argument and reasoning seemed great until you could clearly see him knocking over and then running over my mailboxes. A couple of these times my mail was still in it and got destroyed from his truck tires. Hell, you can even see one time he started looking through my mail before running over the box. He had royally screwed himself over and the look on his face when he got caught was hilarious. Suddenly his tune changed and he no longer was trying to play innocent but instead to shift all of the blame for what he did. He was trying to shift the blame on me and according to him I was adamantly refusing to comply with the HOA standards for a mailbox. By me doing this and recording it, he was trying to claim that I had set the entire thing up and framed him. If we are being honest, I mean, I kind of did do that and let him continue to break more mailboxes than I needed before finally suing him. I was directly asked about that too, and I told them the truth. That I thought at first it was funny, but after the 4th time realizing he was not gonna stop, I finally sued him. That is true, by the way, that I did think after the 2nd or even 3rd time he might have just given up and everything would have settled itself. How was I to know that this man was gonna be so stubborn and act like a child? Well, anyway, regardless of what I did, the fact is he messed with my mail and destroyed 4 mailboxes, which meant he was gonna go to jail for a federal crime. And by the way, Ripe Stars, I had to censor something there because there was some personal information of OP which I didn't want to reveal to the internet, to be honest. Anyway, he got something like a year in jail, but was able to get parole after 4 months of being in there. It did not matter though, because his own HOA rules were now gonna bite him in the butt. I guess they wanted to make sure only good people were part of the HOA, so in the section talking about who can run to be in the board, there's a rule. If you were ever convicted of a crime, you are not allowed to run or be on the HOA board. If you are currently on the board and end up arrested, your position will be lost. In case that did not make sense to anybody, essentially it meant that he could not be part of the HOA even after he got out of jail. As for me, I was just glad I could put up a mailbox and not get harassed and threatened to be sent to jail because it was the wrong color. For anybody super curious about what the final mailbox I put on my property was, I will tell you. It was another baby blue one, because after seeing the more elaborate ones, I honestly liked that one the best. It was simple and yet colorful enough to bring me joy when I went out to get my mail. I'll definitely in the future try to persuade my neighbors to ditch the plain black boxes for something that brings them more joy. And the next one is titled Entitled Karen at the Pool. Backstory: this happened in 1965, just for some clarification. I was 26 then, I am 81 now. So I had a pool party yesterday and thought about this run-in that I had. So in my old neighborhood, my wife and I rented a home in a community of around 23 houses. Out of these 23 homes, we were 1 out of 7 with a pool because the previous owner ordered a pool when he had the house built. Adding a pool was around $2,000 option back then, so many people didn't get it. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I would imagine that $2,000 was a ton of money in 1965. How much would that be today? If you know, let us know in the comments. Anyway, because I had a pool, a lot of people would try to come over to swim. Now, I was quite generous with my pool if people called first, and understandably some weekends I wanted some peace and quiet. Soon enough, a new family had moved into the left of me and they heard that I was generous with my pool. So the mom and her 3 kids just came over in swimsuits and asked to use my pool. I said that I was tired and next weekend they could swim, just not right now. I told her that she and her kid could go to the community center. She and her kids could have gotten in for around 25 cents around that time. She said, entitled mom, "Oh come on, I don't want to drive all that way, 3 miles. Plus I don't want my babies in that water with all those black people." Me, I'm sorry, I just got off a 60-hour work week and I don't want to have people over, sorry. Due to her racist attitude, I didn't want her in my home, so I was very dismissive of her using my pool. Entitled mom, come on. My babies are hot and need to cool off. Just let us swim for an hour and we will leave. I don't want them in that nasty pool, just be a good neighbor. Me, no, I'm sorry. She then whispers something to her kids and they proceed to beg to use my pool. I just closed the door on her. A few hours later I hear my dog barking and people screaming. I look out the window and the mom and her kids hopped my fence to gain access to my pool, and they were being cornered by my dog Cupcake. Cupcake was a big pit bull, but she was a sweetie. She always defended me and my property. I take the family out of my yard and tell them that if they came on my property again, I would call the police. She also did try to gain access to the other neighbors' pools and was promptly banned from there as well. And yeah, Ripe Stars, it seems like a pool can attract a lot of entitled people. If I had a pool, I would probably build a huge fence around it to get rid of all of these entitled people in case I would live in such a neighborhood. Do you have a pool at your home? And if so, did you ever have any issues with entitled neighbors? Let us know in the comments. And the next one is titled, I took Karen's groceries. I am male 50s at Walmart and hear a girl, a worker in her 20s, nicely say, "Excuse me ladies." I see 2 entitled women in their 40s talking in front of the doors that the workers use to restock the store. The entitled woman looked at the worker with the disdain of royalty being interrupted by a filthy peasant. The worker with her empty supply cart again tells the entitled beast that she needs to get through. Again, the entitled woman blows her off with pursed lips and a dirty look. Now, I have a particular sensitivity to people mistreating workers, and these bees have disrupted my delicate sensibilities. I walk past the entitled woman snagging one of the carts full of groceries and I take off. It takes them a moment for them to notice before they pursue me. I quickly traverse the back aisle and turn the corner towards the front of the store. One of the entitled women tried to pull the cart away from me, but I make it all the way to the front of the store before letting go. I make a clean getaway and go back to get my cart. Next to the restock doors is the other woman's cart. Now, before you all call me the a-hole, I'm fully aware, but these people needed to be taught a lesson and I'm just the one compelled to step up. I grab the cart and head off to the camping section. I take the cold stuff from the cart. I needed milk and eggs anyway, so it was a bonus. Later though, I felt bad that some Walmart worker would have to restock the cart from the camping section, so I went back and the cart was gone. This happened like a year ago and I didn't think too much about it, but the other day I was at a restaurant with my extended family. One of the waitresses kept looking at me. It took me a while to put it together. When she walked past, I said, "Didn't you used to work at Walmart?" She got excited and exclaimed that she thought it was me. I had a haircut and lost some weight since then, and she filled me in on the aftermath. The ladies complained to the manager that a guy tried to steal their stuff for no reason. The manager figured there was more to the story. The entitled women wanted the manager to find me and have me arrested. The worker girl told her what really happened and has since then become store folklore. I told her I posted the story on r/AITA and got voted the a-hole. She said, "You're not an a-hole, you're a legend." My sister told her another similar story from when we were kids, but I will save that for another day. And the next one is titled, "A Terrible Situation." Backstory: my former colleague has had trouble keeping up at work, often missed his project's deadline, collaboration between mine and his team, because he refused to stay back. Wife did not like him to do so, and had more than once showed up unceremoniously at our workplace hurling insults and screaming for her husband to come home ASAP, simply to deliver any urgent project. Also for context, this is not a common thing for us staying back after hours. It only happens when a project is due delivery and the company compensates OT and meal allowances us for the after hours. During company's dinner, she sarcastically said to me, "Oh, you're the other woman who is always on someone's husband's business." And just because a few weeks before that I insisted for him to stay back and finish his part of the project. After his team leader did not manage to do so and asked me for help. I simply shut her down as politely as I could and told him whatever relationship issues he has with her should not be any of my problems. So then I made a complaint to HR, and apparently this is not the first complaint about his incompetence due to problems with the wife. HR is at their absolute limit this time. We are at a year-end appraisal, and I know it's weird, but it just so happens for this company they do in November and we get our bonuses by end of December. And basically HR has been gathering not just his team, but also pretty much the entire company about his performance. While this is not a conglomerate, it's still a pretty solid 300+ staff company. HR also tracks all his involvements in every project we have had this year to see if he had caused any blockage that led us to bleed money. Suffice to say, it's not looking very good for him. Due to this, he has caused 2 late deliveries and 1 client's refusal to renew a contract. The blockage from his side has also led to a high turnover for his team. 3 junior engineers left because they cannot stand his work ethic, as they were the one who had to pick up his slack. So yeah, he was asked to leave. However, the story hasn't ended yet. The next week, the wife showed up at work causing ruckus, yelling and screaming, who made her husband lost his job. And then she ran straight to the discussion room I was in, barged through and started calling me a colorful array of insults. Not only that, but she tried to tackle me, and security did tackle her first. She destroyed a few office furniture and during her rampage slammed one of our interns' laptops on the floor. When they tell you no wrath like a woman's anger, well, this is the description for it. Police were called, etc., and she was locked up. What I heard from other teammates is that the wife is super jealous type and has been controlling his money as well. So when he broke the news, she pretty much got enraged that they are not gonna be able to sustain their lavish lifestyle. The wife just stays at home, and lucky thing is they have no kids. So now my ex-colleague went from just losing his job to being faced with charges of property destruction, possibly also looking at instant termination, because he was there all along when his wife was yelling at everyone at the office and he was the one who tapped his access card and let her in. Yesterday, a colleague told me he moved out of his marital home and is filing divorce from the wife. I guess years of encouraging his wife's entitled and controlling behavior is finally biting him back in the rear. Edit, the dude worked for 9 years before he was asked to leave. He had been married to his wife for the last 6 years. I'm not the first one to complain about him, and the complaint is about his wife meddling again in his work responsibilities. Just because somebody is in an abusive relationship, the company is not responsible for their personal life. Plus, 6 years being married to her, and in that run, multiple colleagues have extended their sympathy and tried to help him out. Even a manager has once allowed him to stay at his place after the wife threw him out of their home due to some tantrum relating to work. He ended up going back to her, so yeah, he has been encouraging her behavior all the while, and I don't say this lightly as someone who has been in an abusive relationship as well. Victim blaming? For real, we are all adult and expected to have some sense of personal responsibility. Comments saying company punished him for refusing overtime is stupid as well, and I don't know if your workplace tolerates blockage in project pipelines the way you can refuse work when it's your responsibility. This is not picking up extra shifts from Walmart, this is picking up your slack or a teammate's slack when the entire team has to stay back just so we could deliver within deadlines. While the company for sure could have handled it from the start, teams are expected to teamwork it and do your due diligence. There's been instances where some people didn't stay for personal obligations and it's understood by the company. However, whenever this guy stayed back due to his slacks, it's a 70% chance his wife would show up and throw tantrums. We are all executive level and above here. Most companies don't compensate you for overtime work, but ours did with meal allowances and hourly pay. We aren't in America here, our labor law is different, we are paid a solid monthly salary. Company discourages overtime just because you want to make extra money. Claims of overtime have to be submitted with proof of work and signed off by managers or team leaders, which is me and another guy. This hyper-individual culture from these comments are getting way out of hand. I don't know where you guys work, but heck, if you're allowed to do whatever crap you want just because you have a long-running personal issues, that's not how it works here. But anyways, we are not in America. Our law is different and he was asked to leave, not immediately terminated. The grace period after you're asked to leave is 2 weeks for handover, hence why his access card is still activated. And the next one is titled, "You want to threaten a lien on my house? Bring it on." This story begins almost a year ago. I received a call from an unknown number on my cell phone. It was an automated message to call a 888 number in regards to serving me papers. I knew right away this may have been a collection agency. I googled the number and confirmed it. Now, I have to disclose I did have identity theft almost 20 years ago. To this day I occasionally get calls from collection agencies trying to collect on some debt from 20 plus years ago that was cleared. Now, most of the time when I get these calls, I ask for their address to send in a dispute letter, including the accompanying data for proof that I had identity theft. Granted, they should not be calling me, but they apologize and I don't get another call. Plus, they usually mail me back and said they closed the account. Well, I go to call this person and I gotta say, the call was interesting. This woman answered and I gave her my info. She started rattling off a debt that was back in 1995. I let her finish and told her that I had no knowledge and there was identity theft. And as soon as I said that, she freaked out. She kept saying she knew the debt was mine and I'm going to pay. I kept telling her that I wanted to mail a letter. But she flat out refused. When I told her I knew my rights, she said that I had the right to pay the debt. She then said that she's going to put a lien on my huge pretty house, her words by the way, and she was describing the house to the letter. She also said she's going to put a lien on my Lexus that she sees in the driveway, and she said that my gate in the front won't stop the repossession. She then hung up. Now I knew better. All she did was get my info from public records and then saw my house on Google Street View. My guess is that she tried to push this intimidation on other people that know better. So far, it appeared to be a very disreputable company. I also had phone recordings when I called in, and they were legal as I asked her if phone calls can be recorded for quality control purposes. She said of course, and I said thank you, I will take that as my consent. I would have just let this go and just say this lady was crazy, but I kept getting the automated phone calls and I couldn't block them as they were unknown. I googled the company and I thought they were in Ohio. A couple of flags that led me to believe this was the person who owned this company in Ohio was being indicted with charges whom was an attorney. I placed a complaint with the Ohio Attorney General, but they could not find any info on what I was submitting. They did call the phone number I gave them, and the Attorney General told me they would stop from calling me. But that is all the Attorney General could do. I also complained to the Federal Consumer Finance Bureau, whom is supposed to be looking into these issues, but they blew me off. Well, 3 months later, I called this number. I had an idea of maybe pressing buttons when I called in to see if I could get more information about the company through the IVR. Well, that paid off. As soon as I pressed 0, I got a different company name. I googled that company and got tons of complaints. This led me to the company existing in New York. I complained to the Attorney General of New York with all of my info. I'd done quite a bit of research over the next couple of weeks and found out a whole bunch of info, such as the owner. Found out that the address where the company no longer received mail was at the owner's address, their Facebook account, etc. I then got another one of those unknown phone calls, but this time it is a different company. I'm sure you get what I'm getting at. The company just keeps changing their name, but the parent company still calls. I finally had enough of this. I get a private investigator involved and they were quite satisfied with all the info I got so far, so I let him do his business. Well, he calls me back saying that this company is not even registered and it is run by this one lady. I find out the rude lady whom I am talking to is the supposed owner, but not running a legitimate business. I got a process server to file a claim in NY. Granted, I think I could have done it where I was at, but I was heading up to that area in NY anyway, as I had some family reasonably close. The problem was she was not able to be served. The house which she owned she was not able to be served at. Either she was not there or was staying somewhere else. Well, my private investigator started sending out friend requests to her and the people in her friends list. Well, her friends, and then she accepted the Facebook request. My private investigator also found out that she cheated on her boyfriend about a month ago since she posted that crap. The private investigator gave me an idea of trying to reach her boyfriend, and if he can lead us to serve her, I will give him $500. Well, we did that, and sure enough we were finally able to serve this lady at her parents' house about 20 miles from where she was at. I fly up to NY, and since it is small claims, it is just me and this lady. For some reason her mother is there too, but she is not representing. I give the judge all of my info I had over the months and how she broke the law. She broke debt collection laws and threats over the phone. After the judge heard all the trouble I had with these calls and how she hid her identity purposely, the judge gave me the maximum amount of $3,000. In NY, small towns and villages are limited to $3,000. After the case, I heard her mother loudly whispering, but I heard it, "You better hope he doesn't take your house. Your great-grandfather built this with his own bare hands." I was thinking, it would be sweet revenge if I could actually put a lien on the house. Well, lo and behold, I found out that the house had a second mortgage attached to it. With the property value of the house, and if it's sold, I wouldn't end up getting the lien money since the secondary mortgage was almost as much as the house. I was then contemplating how I was going to get the money from this lady. My private investigator called me 5 months later and said her house is going into foreclosure. I get a proxy to bid for me, but as in most foreclosure actions, the bank buys it back as an REO. I decided to send in a lowball offer to buy the house a couple of months later. The bank accepted my offer, and my guess is that it is a small town and trying to get the right market was an issue. You may be wondering why I even bought this house. Well, here is why. This woman threatened to put a lien on my house with no merit. Well, guess what? I took her house. It was completely worth it. It didn't cost me too much and I had the money. The house is actually in decent shape, just a little small. Plus it will be a nice summer home when I go to visit my relatives. Oh, and I decided to rub in salt to the wound. I sent a letter to her parents' address letting them know I took the house. I told them that if her daughter wouldn't be in the business of scamming people, they may not have lost the house. I also go to find out that the Attorney General of NY is now investigating this lady. I hope they throw the book at her, not going to mention the collection agency, but if you stop getting calls from them, you are welcome. And guys, with this we have reached the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. However, if you cannot get enough of my content, then please feel free to check out my Patreon over at patreon.com/ripeyoutube or join my YouTube membership program by clicking the join button to get access to even more exclusive videos. Thank you so much for your support, and I will see you again tomorrow.